Ahoy, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Yoink. There we go. How are you? Apologise, I'm a little bit sweaty. I've just got out the gym and out the shower about 2 minutes ago. So here I am, on time, almost. How are you? Who's in the chat? Plenty already. How are we doing? Richie Davies, now then. Joe, how are you? Trev Harris, now then. Emma Frew, she's going to be 3 minutes late. Well, that means we'll probably be about on time together, won't we? Richie Errington, how you doing? Resistant Geordie, Bill Beebe, English Realist, Professor Andy, A Green, Richie Errington, and anybody else who I've missed. John Higginson, now then, how are you doing? Right, it's a bank holiday weekend out here, so I'm not going to be about this weekend. So I thought I'd do a Friday live stream. I assume there'll be less people in because Friday I always think is when most people go on the lash when they work for a living. And obviously my channel is watched by people that work for a living, not pot-bellied, foul-smelling chavs who haven't lifted a finger for 37 years. Mick Philpott's not a fan of this channel. I mention him so much you would think that him and I were tight, but no, it's constant abject mockery for Mr. Philpott. Rest in peace to Starship. That is true. However, it was definitely a partial success because people don't realise, seeing as they've now done it once, catching a skyscraper that plummets to Earth at supersonic speeds is, in and of itself, a miracle of modern engineering. So it's a partial success. That master catching them, and then all you've got to do is master the Starship. It's good stuff, really. Right, so shall we do some news? Loads of good news to do. First things first, the BBC is loving life today, crowing as usual. In fact, should we just put the BBC website on and we'll do it on the fly and see what's what? Health Secretary responds to bereaved parents in Leeds following investigations following 56 deaths. Yeah, but as usual, it'll just be more words and platitudes and pointless hopes and dreams, prayers, and in my thoughts, and then nothing will happen. So who cares? Who cares? Wes Streeting is an absolute plank. The man is genuinely dense, and he used to be a commie agitator. Peter Hitchens said, he used to make threats about beating people up with baseball bats and that, and now he's calling himself some sort of, fine, upstanding gentleman. So, I mean, and look at the clip of him, chinless wonder. If you're impressed by these people and you think the things they say are sensible and reasonable, well, you're welcome to them. You're welcome to them. Nobody's ever put forward any logical or sensible reasons as to why these people are impressive, ever. They just constantly throw it out there on Twitter every day because they're in a cult. They're in a cult. When people say things about Trump's many failings, we don't deny them. People voted for him in spite of them. Nobody thinks Trump is an amazing orator. Or, he's definitely got bad-tempered granddad vibes, but so what? But these people, Joe Biden is a good example. He's a joke. Everybody knows it. They know that for the last 4 years, the president's been absent. I was listening to Eric Weinstein on a podcast talking about it. He was saying everyone knows this. Even all the Democrats know it. All the Democrat senators. Of course he can't run anything. He's senile. He's got porridge for brains. But they all say, but it's okay, though, because, because he can't run things, we've got a panel of, 4 or 5 people that are running the show. And if you knew who they were, you'd be really impressed. They're really well-heeled and well-credentialed people, so you'd be dead impressed. Well, I'm not impressed. Imagine saying that with a straight face to Americans. Imagine what's impressive about it. We don't know who's actually running the country. And yet, you look on Twitter, and the last 2-3 weeks, it's just been people saying, Joe Biden's one of the greatest presidents ever. What a guy. What a guy. Like, completely at odds with reality. And I think this is what's caused this schism and this en masse millions of former Bernie bros voting for Trump. Because it's beyond the pale, isn't it? You can have problems with various elements of Donald Trump and still hold your nose and vote for him. Because you can see both sides of the argument, but the woke, as I said, it's just a cult. It's just a cult. I do not understand what planet they're living on when they just throw out these platitudes constantly, no matter what the problem is. I mean, Rachel Reeves is another one, isn't she? Have you seen all the absolute shite that Rachel Reeves has been coming out with the last couple of weeks? Every day she just makes pointless platitudes on Twitter and thinks that counts as work. It doesn't count as work. I'm not even going to cover this story, by the way, because the one to the right of Mr. Streeting. Because if you bring it up in any length, YouTube will have a field day. So I'm not going to cover it. I'll tell you what, it'll be safer if I go to Twitter. Let's just... Oh yeah, I wasn't even sharing the BBC page. That was the one I was looking at. Mr. Street in there, Chinless Wonder, IQ of a pull along duck. The story I'm on about is that one. I'm not covering it because I'll just go to Twitter and briefly talk about some of the comments I made there. Because if you start showing pictures of blokes doing the obvious, you know, the not quite a wave hand signal, you'll just get instantly slammed by the people that run Silicon Valley. So we won't do that. But what I will make the point now is that the general public is now well aware that the state is at war with us, and there's a two-tiered justice system, a naked, blatant, brazen one that I don't really need to talk about anymore. It's kind of boring to talk about, isn't it? Because there's so many stories in the last 6 months. Like, I'm sure you don't want me to talk about it, do you? It's boring. It genuinely is boring because, like, I think between me and all of the other anyone with more than about 2,000 Twitter followers, there's been hundreds of cases where you've had a bloke send a nasty message on Facebook, go to prison, and then you've had one of our dusky brethren commit something and the state just doesn't care. So rather than cover the story in the obvious that everyone's going on about, I'll just say that the lad who attempted murder should obviously go to prison for a very, very long time. And this is yet another example of the mind-melting hypocrisy of the left, because there is no contradiction in the opinions of those of us on the centre-right or the centre-left or the real world people, the normal people who think that you should be tough on crime. The general public, uniformly, except for the woke, because they're in a cult, the general public is uniformly in support of getting very tough on crime, smashing crime. Nobody in the general public thinks you should be able to almost end somebody's life with a knife who you didn't even know because you're in the thrall to an ideology and get let off scot-free. But the point I made in this tweet, in response to Brendan Cox, who's never shut up about the fact that his missus got killed by a lunatic, clearly a lunatic, not a member of any right-wing groups, not a right supremacist. He wasn't anything, he was a weirdo. I think, conspiracy hat on, I think because of the timings of it, and I genuinely haven't read this anyway, I've just come to this conclusion myself, but you can tell me if you think this is lunacy or not. Knowing now what we know about the machinations of the state, I think with the date that happened, I think someone in our intelligence services conducted a brief sweep of their shortlist of raving lunatics that we can push at someone, right? Whispered in their ear for a bit and sent them in Mrs. Cox's general direction. I genuinely think it, because the timing of that attack on her by an absolute weirdo with no political affiliations at all, the timing was just too suspicious. And I thought that back at the time, but this is when I was, not mega conspiratorial. I thought that at the time. I thought the timing is so bizarre. Like, we get assassinations on political figures staggeringly rarely. Before our friends, especially if you count out Pyra and the regulars at Allen's world famous snack bar, if you take those two groups out, assassinations on political leaders in the UK are like vanishingly rare. And I don't recall, because I haven't looked this up for months, but wasn't it literally about 3 weeks before the Brexit vote? So I genuinely think that the security services were involved in that. I don't think they'd go so far as to use one of their own, because we know who did it. But I think they definitely bend the will towards steering a lunatic, whispering in his ear and saying, "Oh, see her there? She's mental. Oh my God, she's one of them who's gonna get you." Whispering in his ear and pushing him over the edge and then sending him in a general direction. I genuinely think that's what happened to Mrs. Cox. And I keep using the term Mrs. because I'm sick of hearing her name. And that sounds callous, but I'm sick of hearing her name. Every 2 minutes, the BBC whip it out. I'm sick of hearing her name. So to me, she'll be forever Mrs. Cox, right? And I'm sick of hearing it. I think the state was involved. What we know now about all that's gone on in the last 10 years, these people are deranged. These people are deranged. And I've never been a conspiracy theorist, ever. But a rational man follows the evidence where it lays, doesn't he? Good evening from the north. Now then, got a soft spot for my fellow northerners. So it is. It's well dodgy, that. And then Mr. Cox has been making hay with it ever since. And he put this story, "Never forget that spreading hate has consequences." Well, it does. And nobody is spreading hate. All people are saying is, can't we have borders like we used to in the 80s? Like, this is what they've done by shifting the open window, haven't they? Because think of that. Just think of the words, instead of like focusing on the lies and the propaganda and the misinformation. Just think of the words. Someone as boring and milquetoast as Nigel Farage, or Priti Patel, or Suella Braverman, or any of them, all they do is say, like, maybe we should just like deport criminals and enforce the borders like we did in the 80s. And everyone agreed with, even the Labour Party. And they go, hate. Hate. Oh my God, it's hate. Like as if everyone's favourite one bollocked Austrian dictators were back in action. Do you know what I mean? It's, if you listen to the words, it's the most boring milquetoast, run-of-the-mill, centrist position ever. And in the 80s, every party agreed with it. And Bill Clinton agreed with it. And Obama agreed with it. Which is why he deported, how many? Let's get rid of that. Which is why he deported millions and millions of people. But now if you say, could be deport criminals, they go, gas chambers. It's really preposterous. So this guy's talking total bollocks. John Hunter's a Scouser, is he? Merseyside, yeah. Commie gibberish 101, Merseyside. Well, as I said, I'm not a collectivist, so I don't have a pop at Scousers. Only 40 or 50% of them are communists in Liverpool. So, you know, I'm not painting with broad brushes. Same with Scottish people, the Welsh, and 70% of the Irish. So I don't paint with broad brushes. I like everyone. On an individual level, you're just much more likely to bump into a communist in Liverpool than you are in, I don't know, where? I can't even think of any right-wing bastions in the UK anymore. The North East embarrassing, isn't it? The North East embarrassing. Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Sunderland, Hartlepool. They've always voted bloody socialists in, haven't they? Borough is an embarrassment. That Andy Preston was bang on, and instead they went with dodgy Dave Budd's party and voted in a clown who has done less work than the ship's cat since the election, and all he does is gob off about Palestine. He doesn't give a single F about Middlesbrough, but he loves talking about Palestine. What's that got to do with anything? Anyway, I'm ranting. To cover this, Mr. Cox here. So he said, yeah, we're not spreading hate, but fair enough. Consequences. You can debate immigration policy as much as you like. Can you? Can you? Are we living in a country where you think you can debate migration policy as much as you like? Yeah? Yeah, debate it as much as you like, and you'll get 10 coppers knocking your door in at 3 o'clock in the morning folding you up like a deck chair and then rogering you with the prize-winning leak. That's what happens if you debate migration policy as much as you like in the UK. What are you talking about? Debate is you definitely can't. You definitely can't. But anyway, the story was him crowing about the fact that they've just jailed one of probably the only actual full-blown supremacy type fella in the last decade or two. Like, they're very, very, very rare in the UK. And they finally got one. And they're proper through the book at him. So again, I'm not going to cover the story because I don't want to get the obvious off the people that run this appalling platform. But this bloke stabbed one guy. Again, I'm not making light of it. He should definitely go to prison for a long time. But he stabbed a guy who lived. And they're saying because he was a right-winger and he targeted him because he was an immigrant, he's properly just got like 25 years in jail and he'll never ever get out. And all I pointed out was Carlos and Lawson here actually did murder a teenager. So the guy who's just got 25 years, he didn't kill anyone. And the bloke will make a full recovery. He stabbed him twice, once in the chest and once in the hand. Very minor injuries, really. And he'll make a full recovery. I don't think he hit him in the heart, and his hand, you get over that. So basically, if you don't kill anyone, but you look like me, you get 25 years. But if you do kill a teenager, you get 6 months. And Netto and Natty, sounds like two budget supermarkets on it. Netto and Natty stabbed a kid. He was literally like 16, I think. Gordon, he was called, from Newcastle. And that one on the right, Natty, he's got released. He's out already. This fella here did less than a year in prison for murdering a child. This fella's still in, but he'll be out soon. He'll be out by the time he's 25. But if you look like me and you stab someone and they live, 25 years, see you later. Richie Erickson, why did he not use the old mental health issue? Well, you know why. Because it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked, would it? If you look like me and you tell people you're mental, they go, it's a sham. It's a sham, it's all lies. He's just trying to get off with an easy sentence, 25 years. It's what you look like now. And as I said, even that, being a reasonable chap, I do get it. They're overcorrecting because in the 70s and the 80s, there was problems with institutional prejudice from the British police. We know that, and that's not a good thing. But we've done an overcorrection. We've done an obvious overcorrection that offends everybody, and it's just creating the next generation of full-blown milk supremacy types, isn't it? It's just creating the next generation because now everybody's getting angry. And even me, who would have never dreamed of sort of making light of this type of stuff, now I'm annoyed because I keep seeing stuff like this where you get murderers, killers, butchers, baby killers. You get the likes of Salman Abedi and Axel Rudu Kanubu, and they give them every opportunity, and they buy the clothes and they feed them for 25 years and they put them on Doctor Who. They give them every advantage and every opportunity while stomping on the throats of the white working classes. And then when they do something wrong, they get treated with kid gloves. And when we do something wrong, we get 25 years in prison or 2 years for a Facebook post. And as I've said, extremism breeds extremism. The woke are extremist and they've took over the whole world and it's breeding extremism. And the whole point I make about trying to be good-humoured and just have a laugh and get by on absurdism and mockery is because, to me, that's the only cure for it. Like, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. But constantly reading about these stories where they're killing teenagers and getting 9 months in prison and then seeing people like us get 25 years for doing something slightly less bad makes you angry, and it's putting everyone on the road to extremism. So if they had any sense, they'd step back from it, but they won't, because our leaders are midwits who don't read books. And if any of them knew anything and read any long books, they would know exactly how you counter this. By returning to good old-fashioned blind justice and centrist policies, but they refuse to do it. They're pushing the woke on us aggressively. They are throwing, laughing while they do it, mind-melting hypocrisy in our faces, and they're getting confused why more and more people are getting very, 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 very angry. Look at Anna Soubry. There's a good example. Anna Soubry spent 12 months calling everyone who voted against Romania in the European Union a far-right, horrible, dirty, Mussolini, Cheeto, Adolf, the worst slurs you can think of. And when a bunch of white working class lads gathered outside Parliament and started chanting, Soubry is one, they all went to prison. So they're locking you up for words or Facebook posts and releasing cold-blooded killers and laughing as they do it. I think that's going to be appealing to extremists. But what do I know? Emma Fruit, thanks for the Ayrton Senna. Hiya, Matty Boot. What are your thoughts on the hospital stabber that the MSM keep calling Roman Haig, even though everyone knows his name is Mighty Mo? Yeah, Mighty Mo. What are my thoughts on that? Well, if you've been watching this channel for anything more than about two days, you know what my thoughts are on that. This is part of what I'm talking about. It's the ongoing global conspiracy to gaslight an entire people. And as I just said, they give them every opportunity. They give them every advantage. You've all seen, I've covered it many times, the official statistics of people who go to college in the UK, university. African and Asian kids on free school meals, the most poverty-stricken people in the UK, 65% of them go to university. Whereas white kids on free school meals, it's like 4% of them are the boys. I think it's 8% total or 9% total, but like 3% for the boys. Like, it's that blatant. It's more than... Basically, if you're a black kid in England and you're poverty-stricken, you're 20 times more likely to go to uni with state assistance than a kid like me from Middlesbrough. So it's all linked. It's this global conspiracy. Constantly promote and throw resources at the minority groups and constantly antagonise, criminalise, slur, antagonise, and lots of other things beginning with ending with eyes, the locals. It's on purpose. It's on purpose. So I keep making the point. If you want to fight against extremism, you do what I do, and you deal with it with humour. And you say, don't play their game. Don't you see? They want you to be an extremist. They are the enemy. This is like a war. But they can't get me, because I constantly make the point that if you do that, you're playing into their hands. That's why they antagonise you. They know that I'm going to show you the Lawson Natty story and say, why did this guy get 6 months for murdering someone? And why did this fella who looks like me, this handsome blue-eyed devil, why did he get 30 years for not killing anyone? They know we're going to talk about it, and they're trying to drive you mad on purpose. So what you do is, you do what I do, you laugh at them. You mock them endlessly. They can stop you doing loads of things. Bernard Manning, bless him, used to say it all the time. They can stop you doing many things, but they can't stop you laughing. Can't stop us laughing, can they? So let the world go by. Watch yourself. Make sure you never cross any lines. And watch the world go by and take the piss out of them. And every chance you get, ruthlessly mock the likes of Anna Soubry and Keir Starmer and Wes fat, chinless wonder streeting, and chuckle away and make them laugh with important, make them snarl with important rage that they can't get to you. That's how you do it. You don't ever think of doing anything pointless like hurting a politician or knifing someone, because it's meaningless. It's one person. Even, and I'd say this about the daft Americans, because they have a penchant for trying to shoot the president. What will that achieve? They're just a figurehead. If some moron slots Joe Biden, the next day, Kamala's in. And then what they're going to do, put one in her, and then, ta-da, Pelosi leaps onto the stage. Is she any better? And then what are you going to do? Are you just going to keep twatting people and hoping for the best? It's lunacy. So the answer is humour and mockery and piss-taking. That's what you do. Reject it, because they are trying to drive you mad, and they want you. They want you to do something crazy. They're looking for an excuse to lock you up. It's Stalin's Russia, and this is what I'm saying. It's because a man who we should all admire, Solzhenitsyn, talks about all of this in his book. You've got to laugh. He never lost his sense of humour, and he was in the gulag for a decade. Never lost his sense of humour. You don't need to. You are the captain of your ship, the master of your soul. You can laugh. There's nothing that can do to me that would break me, nothing. If when I land in Heathrow in March, they lock me up, I will have a fatty on in the cell because they're proving me right. You've got to embrace that Spartan mentality. Good humour and stoicism will get you through any problem. And I don't care what they do to me. And neither should you. This almost sounds like I'm giving you some white pills here, but I'll sum up with this. No matter how bad it gets, it always ends. Every war always ends. Every torture always ends. Every ignominy, every abuse always comes to an end. So you dig your heels in and you plant yourself like a tree and you say, you will never, ever, ever, ever break me, you geggy, chinless, weak, sparrow-boned soy boy, weird, homoerotic android, Keir Starmer. You'll never, ever, ever, ever do it. And it's simple as that. And these tin pot dictators is what they are. Just laugh in the face. And even if they lock you up, they haven't won. Because they know the masses despise them. Why do you think Rachel Reeves looks like Zelda from Terrorhawks after 6 months in the job? Have you seen the clip of her? Because it's like karma, isn't it? They know. Matty was a para. All right, paras. I'd rather be a para than a sailor, Davy boy. There you are. Definitely rather be a para than a sailor. So touche, Sonny Jim. Have that. This is a good story. Anyway, I've done with white pills. The point I was getting at, it was they can't touch you if you don't let them. The human mind, like I said, read Invictus, Henley, the only poem I like. That's a man's poem, that innit? Nobody can break you if you don't let them. Your will can be indomitable if you really put your mind to it. And yeah, most of you lot aren't as Tommy Rockers as me because you weren't bootnecks, you didn't earn your green lids. But who cares? You can still be rock. You can still have an indomitable will. And you can say, no, you move. You move. And the point I was going to make was, I was watching a recent documentary called Empire of the Sea. And it was all about how, at one point, basically 25% of the wealth of the entire nation was on a couple of ships. Well, I think it was a couple of dozen ships. And we were trying to get a convoy over to the Americas for trade. And the dirty, filthy, crooked frogs and Spaniards found out about it, robbed it all, and bankrupted us as a country. And it was the ultimate humiliation. And we had nothing, and we were done. Done, like as low as you can possibly go. And then 30 years later, we were the masters of the world. Everything bad ends. We're going through a rough patch. And I'm black-pilled in the short term, but white-pilled in the long term as a result, because everything ends. So basically, this kind of sucks. But we'll laugh our way and we'll stokely get through it. If your grandparents and your great-grandparents could get through the Blitz and sit and casually have a cup of tea in the rubble of their houses, what are you worried about this? Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to keep doing what they're doing, and they're going to keep antagonising the locals, and they're going to keep importing your replacements, and it's going to get worse every year, because every year you're going to get another 100,000 swarthy blokes moving, and every year you're going to get more crime, and every year you're going to get more regulars at Allen's with hissing backpaps or, explosive shoes, taking people out. And you're going to get more Taylor Swift dance classes. But eventually, the pop bubbles over, and then we win. Right? So this is our wealth of a nation stolen by the filthy, sneaky frogs. This is our moment. But we'll get through it. And when the pot bubbles over and the people have had enough, we win. We win. How many are they going to import? And everyone's over 50's got old man strength. I'll take 5 million very, 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 very angry boomers and middle-aged men from Scotland, Ireland, England, Wales, and Western Europe. I'll take them over 1 million weak. I told you what my old fella said when I was telling him, like, they were kind of physically unimposing in Iraq and Afghanistan and places like that. I was like, the blokes are just sort of pathetic. My old fella was like, yeah, they're full of rice and piss, aren't they? They live off it. I was like, what? Rice and piss? I don't think that's the national cuisine, rice and piss. But the point is, they will lose when it massively kicks off. And it eventually will. They'll lose. So short-term black pill, long-term white pill. That's all I'm saying. Gen X, yeah, I'm Gen X as well. Apparently, Gen X are the ones who put Trump in the White House as well. So we'll be all right in the long term. In the meantime, I intend to spend the next 5 years ruthlessly ripping the piss out of Kia and racing from accounts. And you're welcome to join me from my secret lair in America. Anglo-Saxon top G move to it. Yeah, I know. As I said, lucky. I was more grasping for an American passport than some third worlder who's rattling an 87-year-old granny. I was desperate for it. Fortunately, my missus is a lot younger than me. She isn't a 83-year-old granny. Because I'm a bootneck and, we're good at trapping, aren't we? Remember, there are evil people who will gleefully burn the country to the ground just for the pleasure of ruling over the ashes. They will. They won't be able to do that, though. They can only sort of take the slash a little bit at a time, like Tony Blair did. Slow, death by 1,000 cuts type stuff. But eventually they lose, and I think anyone with any sense knows it. Here's a good video. Here's a good post I responded to, look. Black Panther. In some good news, the Cybertruck is illegal in the UK. Why is that good news? If you're lucky enough to have the money and you want to drive a Cybertruck, get one. Why is that good news? Look, and this is what I said to him. An overbearing authoritarian state that tells you what you're allowed to do with all your time and tells you that your property is and takes your property off you is a good thing. You've been swigging the Kool-Aid, son. Like, this bloke is just a plank. Like, how is it good news? It's perfectly, they're all over the roads out here in California. I've seen loads of them. If you want to drive one, that's your business, isn't it? Why is the state getting involved? Well, we know why they're getting involved. Because in the UK, they're overbearing and they think they can. But again, it's a little thing. If I was that bloke, I'd be like, ha, wankers. And I'd get a Mini Cooper. And I'd be like, all right, don't care. Love your channel from a Canadian. Cheers, Mr. Lovecraft. Big fan of your work. When did you move to the States? Well, I spent a year back in Nottingham working for Games Workshop a couple of years ago. I segued from aerospace to that because it was like a labour of love. The money was terrible, but you did get 50% off minis. So long-time viewers of the channel remember this. I was out here, and then I was back there, and then I came back here. But all in about 10 years. My missus did a master's degree in York. We were living in York together there. And she's a septic. So we got married and I moved out here. It was obvious things were going. And, joking aside, I've told the story before. The main reason is because when her visa expired, it was an absolute nightmare to get her a new one. But Because if you're a Canadian female with the PhD or an American female with a master's degree, they don't want you. They don't want you. If you're an Aussie or a Kiwi, it's our relatives. This is what I'm saying. So it's on purpose because we've got activist racists running the Home Office. So if you're an Australian, a Canadian, a Kiwi, or an American, and you're a young woman, so no physical threat to anyone, and you're a young, attractive lady with a good education, they don't want you. They make your life a living nightmare. So they don't want you. But if you're an illiterate third world man with a big floppy wanger and a penchant for knife work, then they'll have you. Then they'll have your hand off. So, yeah, that's funny, isn't it? As I said, it's by design. Nobody on planet Earth, nobody, even the thickest whale spunk imaginable, the oldest, most dehydrated whale on Earth with erectile dysfunction couldn't summon up a pathetic little discharge, right? Dehydrated, ED, the works, underweight, anemic, bulimic whale couldn't jizz up anything thick enough to then take human form and not know that a 19-year-old man, illegal, liar, whose first act to get into the country is to lie, is more of a risk than a 20-year-old Canadian girl with a good education from a middle-class family. Just so you know that this is all on purpose, as I said, to drive you mad because they hate us. That is literally what we're going through. Like, 18-year-old, knife-wielding, unvetted man, yeah. 20-year-old, middle-class, highly educated Canadian girl, nah. And I've, like I said, I've seen it myself. I've seen it in person. I've talked to them in Heathrow. I've met American girls who have a chip on the shoulder in a theatre in LA who had a chip on her shoulder because she loved living in London and she told me so. She said, oh, I loved it in London. I lived there for years. I had a good job. I loved it. And then they threw me out. Sent me a letter and said, sorry, you're not earning enough money. She was only making $30,000 a year. So said, sorry, you're not earning enough money. Get out. And they threw her out to make room for Axel Rudu Kanubu. So we got a good deal there, didn't we? We got a great deal there. It is indeed the demoralisation stage. As I said, they've took over the entire Home Office. You've seen the photos of the Home Office. The Home Office staff photograph looks like Osama bin Laden's family reunion. Right, so that's why it's on purpose. And they've stitched up the judiciary, and you can't win a court case, and it's a stitch up because they've took over the entirety of the blob. And this is another reason to hate the Tories, because they're only talking about it now. Michael Gove and Boris Johnson and George Osborne and David Cameron and Theresa May and Subri, all of those self-serving, lying, slimy, four-flushing, scum-sucking ratbags, right? They didn't mention any of this when they were in charge. Now, Gove, that geggy jam jars pob-looking, words fail me, that little rat, now he's working for The Spectator, trying to carve out a journalist career. Now he's like, oh, we always talk about the blob, you know. Well, you didn't when you could have done anything about it, you little worm. Michael Gove, every time, there's something you should do, ladies and gentlemen. Go on The Spectator. Don't subscribe to them anymore because they're not conservative. And every single video that Michael Gove appears in, downvote it, pause it because you don't want to watch any longer than you have to. Pause it, downvote it, leave a comment, sack Rims, sack Geggy Jam Jar Poblooker. He's not even remotely conservative. And then go and do something useful with your day. Because I hate him. Michael Gove. I hate him. The brass neck on him did nothing. And now he's trying to be a journalist. Now he's like, oh yeah, we always called them the blob. You little rat. You little rat. Anyway, so this has made me laugh. I was like, this is when you know they're indoctrinating you. Because Black Panther loves the servitude. The government is overbearing, authoritarian, Orwellian, spies on you, steals your money, taxes you till your plums ache. And Black Panther is going, in some good news, the government will tell you what you're allowed to drive, where you're allowed to go, follow you with drones when you go for a walk in the hills. The driver, a permanent legal UK resident who bought it with his own money that had already been taxed, who pays for his own electricity bills, they just steal it off him. I was like, oh, that's good news, isn't it? The government telling you what you're allowed to drive. That's good news. And look at it. And this is his excuse. Look, someone put, people are not allowed to spend their own money in the UK. Sad. And he said, absolutely are, but this vehicle is not safe to have on the road. It's the safest vehicle you can buy, proven with hard science, not the science, actual science, evidenced by the fact they set off an IED outside Trump Hotel and it didn't even break the windows because they were daft enough to put it in the Cybertruck. And he said, its sharpness endangers people. Like, that is thick. Its sharpness and heaviness endanger others. Like a Ford Escort isn't heavy. You know what I mean? It's not the sharpness of vehicles that makes them dangerous, Mr. Panther. It's the speed at which they travel. I guarantee if a Cybertruck hits you at 5 miles an hour and a Mini Cooper hits you at 60 miles an hour, the latter will leave slightly more of a limp. In fact, definitely, if you get it at 60, you're dead, right? It's not the sharpness and it's not the heaviness, because I'm not trying to carry it like a bag of shopping, you absolute log. Sharpness and heaviness. So this is like, this is the level of lackwits we're dealing with. Look at him. Look at him. This is just media personality. This is an example of what happens when you marry your cousins. And he got a YouTube channel. Oh my God, look at this. He's got 1.6 million subscribers. That's mad. So he's an absolute log and he's making bank on YouTube. Love that. Fair play to him. Video games. I guess if you have the right complexion and the right political opinions, YouTube do blow you up, don't they? We all knew that. We all knew that. Oh, I didn't mean to get rid of that. There we are. What else have we got? I'll do one more and then I'm going to bugger off. There's a good point to this knobhead on BBC Newsnight. Listen to this. Absolute drivel.
It is incredibly sinister. It is incredibly sinister to have this person intruding into our politics and into the politics of other countries too. And this is the beginning, his partnership with Trump. Where is that going to go? And is this the beginning of a new data-driven AI polarization between, just like those companies that are mastering AI are just forging right ahead and growing much more quickly than the analog companies that aren't. I don't know where you both stand on that. But you know, this is something that is qualitatively new in politics, and this is just...
Yeah, drivel. First of all, Peter Mandelson's definitely been in him. That bloke's absolutely galloping, isn't he? Absolute whopper, that guy. So Mandy's been in him. We all know that. Second of all, incredibly sinister. Elon Musk just giving his opinions on the internet. Yeah, definitely. I'm getting the word 100%. Mr. Baptiste did have a field day with him. So, Elon Musk What's he doing? What's he actually doing? He's just giving us his opinions in a public forum that the whole world can see. How is that interfering, intruding into our politics? These people, this is what I'm saying, it's on purpose. They aren't thick enough that they're not doing this on purpose. Definitely on purpose. Think about it. They've been slagging off Trump for 8 years. All they did was slag off Trump all the time, every day. And then when Musk comes along and says, oh yeah, I don't like the Labour Party very much, they go, whoa, he's intruding on our politics. Really? Really? The Labour Party sent actual Labour Party members to America to interfere with their election. And that was fine. And the BBC uses the taxpayers' money to propagandise people against Trump, and that's fine. And Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and every one of them can propagandise people all year long. But Musk isn't allowed to have an opinion on the internet. If you think that is incredibly sinister, your mind's so open, your brains have fell out. Your mind's almost as wide as Anthony Seldon's sphincter. Yeah, so there you go. Hilarious. Bet he's been round Diddy's house, 100%. And I made the point there, if you're left-wing, you can intrude as much as you like for decades. Soros and Zuckerberg and Doorstop gave millions and millions and millions to lefty causes. Soros bought radio stations. The BBC uses your money. The Channel 4 uses your money. Spread lies all the time for 8 years. But one guy goes on the internet and goes, I don't really like the Labour Party very much. And they go, yeah, we can't have this. They can't have this despicable intrusion. I was talking intrusion. This fella, this absolute whopper, he's entitled to his opinion that, orange man bad. He can say that. Nobody goes, oh, that's an intrusion. The Labour Party physically sent people over canvassing for Biden. That's an intrusion. Having an opinion cannot and never will be an intrusion, and you know it. You're just trying to drive people mad. And then this moron, Channel 4 doesn't have any of your money. Yeah, cheers then. I just stuck that up. Channel 4 stakeholders include the UK government and the general public. We own it. It's owned by a subsidiary of the British government, Channel 4. So Channel 4 is state-funded propaganda, just the same as the BBC. Yeah, or the totally unelected EU crowd. Brilliant. So yeah, and lots of people underneath going, yeah, clearly Mr. Bootneck reads more than Barbara Ann Plank life. So there you go. Anyway, that'll have to do yous. I've got stuff to do. I've even got to go to work. It's only 11 o'clock here. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to have a weekend off because I've earned it, I think, haven't I? Of course I have. Thanks to everyone who pitched in. Oh, sorry, I missed one here. Hawk News, give me £1. Cheers, Hawk News. How are you? And Emma Frew, what's your plans for Monday? Trump takes his crown and Rudu Kanubu is in court. Will you be streaming? Oh, yeah, Monday I'll probably be back. I might stream Monday. We'll see. I haven't really got any plans. I was just going to play it by ear. Yeah, all right. If I'm about, I'll stream on Monday. I'll see you all then. Okay? Thanks for coming, everyone. Toodle pip. Cheers for all the super chats. Have a fantastic weekend. Keep your chins up and your rage bonus rock solid. And I'll see you all next week. Okay? Take it easy. Toodle pip. Cheers.